All right, good evening and welcome to today's lecture. So let's look at some things we didn't do last time. Let's try to see how we can make some move. So I want to show us something that when you are taking note of your resistance and support, you have what you can do for yourself. You always create your resistance 1, resistance 2, resistance 3. So suppose the same thing happened for your support. You have your support zone 1, you have support zone 2, and support zone 3. I will explain that in a minute. So now we start the theoretical aspect, then we go to the chart. As I taught you, you'll notice that you are going to notice that when you were drawing those lines, you see that the market buys at a particular level, the next level it buys, the next level it buys. That means you don't only have one support existing at a particular point, you still have a second zone that the market could use as another support to keep moving until it hits its final destination. The same thing, you discover that the market does not sell straight. It sells, and the first time it starts selling, this could be the highest level of the resistance. So this becomes your resistance 1. I'm going to explain that. This becomes your resistance 1. Now, the next time, maybe price, it bought, but price could not reach the resistance level 1. Price just ended at your resistance level 2. What happened here? You're going to like resistance level 2. You're going to note what happened here the last time. When you are shading here, you put it so that you keep these zones in mind. So, but what you have to know is that between the highest and the next one, and then the last one of them looks to be the most strongest. So as we are going to continue, you'll discover that there are other ways of viewing the market, that the market will always favor you, no matter how it's manipulated. Instead of going for support zone 2 and 3, you go to the lowest zone, which is the last zone that looks very strong to move the market upwards or to move the market downwards. So let's switch to the app or the chart. So our time is a bit conserved. All right, I think I had a trade running here that day. Let me see what happened here. Okay, so the trade did close in profit. Let me see. Trade history for last week. All right, so it hits his TP. Remember the last time I taught you how to set your orders like stop loss and take profit. Now, when I taught you, that was when our time elapsed, and I couldn't stay to monitor the trade. That let me close it in profit. But you saw I ensured there was stop loss, there was take profit, and that means by our judgment, the market did not hit our stop loss, so it went into profit and even our TP. and the trade closed because we had set an auto action there, and that was nice. So that was it. All right, so now let's get serious now. I'm trying to teach us the next approach to marking your resistance. So you might as well have learned how to change this time frame from 30 minutes. This is 30 minutes view. You could see I'm not seeing in depth of the chart. So I use H4. When I use H4, that's this zone I'm seeing alone on 30 minutes, like this. You can see it. I don't see too much. But when I take it on H1 or H4, I see more in depth of what the market is supposed to be doing. All right, so let's see what I'm trying to teach you, how you work with these lines. You learn that you don't place only one line. So if I want to look at this market, the highest zone of resistance for now is this point. Let's see. Of all, between zone, this is A and this is B. You can see that. And this could be C because the market dropped from here and pulled back. It couldn't buy again. And then the market created a resistance, another resistance. This was the highest, created another resistance and used that to sell. The market pulled up again, created a support, and then pushed to the upside. And what actually happened, we noticed here that it also created another minor resistance, which it used to drop. And these supports and these ones are too close. So you may not consider this kind of support. And then we have a push downwards. So this becomes our R1, resistance 1. And these two zones are our resistance 2. So which means, and then this becomes the last resistance the market created was at this point. I'm using the 4-hour time frame. So just learn how to switch. You will learn much on, you are going to understand how this time frame works. So if I want to see something in depth, those of you that do architecture, there's what we call zooming in and zooming out. So this time frame is mostly, there are time frames that help you see far, and there are ones that you are just going to see what is within or around. So when we want to see the future, maybe weekly, monthly, we use the bigger time frame. So we have the daily and the, so you can see that. So what I want to do, I want to clear off this unnecessary, I want to clear off these unnecessary lines I'm putting, so we are not having too many lines to distract us. Okay, so how you start off when you're working, you start marking your resistance. So this was a resistance that we had a sell candle pushing downward. Then the next side, we had another sell coming in like this. And then after that, we had a drop again. So that became a resistance. So I'm not paying attention to support. The work now is to mark my resistance. So what do we do now? This is our resistance 1. So if I was to take a sell position, if the market violates this one that is here, then the next one I will look for is this one. This is not much of a valid one, but it's just how the market was selling. But the highest of all is this point. So no matter how price push upward, and get to the last part, which is your main resistance here, it must respect it. So what am I trying to say? When you are viewing your chart, you learn to mark your zones of interest. So this is a resistance, this is a resistance, this is a resistance here. The same thing, you are watching out for support. So why am I putting that resistance? Is telling you to pay attention that market is likely to react at this point. This is a support now. So I'm expecting that what happened, that the market too is likely to react at another level as it gets here. Suppose, excuse me. Suppose we have price sitting at this level and it's selling. What do we mean? We are expecting that the market is not going to push downward all the way to this point. That means as it comes to this point, it begins to react to this level of support to probably buy again. So we are putting all these lines just to let us know that there are zones the market is likely going to react. So let me mark the last resistance. This is the highest of all. That is on the H4. This is the highest resistance. So you can see that this is a 4-hour time frame. Are we following?
Yes, we're following.
So what I'm teaching you is that the next time you get to your charts, begin to do this work I'm showing you. So by now, we should know what the support is and what the resistance is. A support is where the market takes it as the lowest level for it to start buying. Resistance is the place where the market takes it. It could take that zone as a temporary zone and begins to sell. So that is it. Okay. So now I'll show you that again. So if I take the daily time frame, I see better here because I see that where I have a big candle selling was from the highest point. Then the next point where I have second resistance of another sell was from here. And then the third point, this is the daily time frame D1. You see how you learn how to be using the higher time frame because that is where you have consistent results than using lower time frame. So we have sell, we have sell, we have sell, and this was not a sell, but this was a support. So we have another sell here. I just have 10 minutes to create another link. So we have sell resistance 1. This is called the major resistance. Sub, another resistance. These are a bit of a minor and another minor resistance. But if we're to measure between these points and this level, this becomes a major resistance. That means if price ever climbs here, that means that resistance becomes invalid. We now watch out. We look at the next zone of interest. So if you've been able to do this on the daily time frame, that is the best way you can do that to have an accurate analysis. So we watch out for our support. So where's the support? We have support here. So mind you, you must not confuse your support with your resistance. So this, and what you don't have to do, you don't have to put the zones too many so you don't get confused. I don't know if you're understanding me. This is a daily time frame I'm using. So you don't put the zones too many. So we know that this is a support here, and this is another support. So probably Remember, support is always put down, resistance is put on top. Look at it. So you'll be able to differentiate. This is a resistance rather here. Resistance, support, support for a buy, support for a buy, support for a buy. And this resistance for a sell, resistance for a sell, resistance for a sell, another resistance for a sell to the last point. Do you have any question from last point or so, what we did? Any question?
My question is, supposing you put your resistance and your support, and for example, price violates that zone. What will happen? Will you go ahead to place your trade?
If it violates it, you close now.
No, like you're just watching it for now. You've not placed any trade. You're just watching it, and probably where your support or your resistance is, price violates is small, and you believing that it might still go back to your normal direction, to your analysis, it might still fall back to your analysis. Do you go on to place the trade?
If you were to put a buy, and that is why you put stop loss for everything. You put a buy. Are you getting me? If you put a buy,
yeah.
I'm coming. This funny bastards. All right. So when you put a buy here, okay, let's start from this point. You have suspected there's supposed to be a support here, for example, and then you enter a buy here. When you enter the buy, instead of the market going your direction, or the market did like it was buying, the next time the force was more than, or we still had sellers in control of the market, what happened? The market had to violate this point and then move farther away from your entry. But scenarios like this will tell you to put stop loss below here, so that if a major news occur or event happens, you don't suffer, go into severe loss. You just have by percentage, you just have little losses there. So that is it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Euro USD for now. Let's pick another example so we know that we've thoroughly done with that. So I taught you that the easiest way, you either use the D1 to mark those zones. It's more easier than using 30 minutes because you have to be pinching the screen, or you have to zoom in and zoom out. But nevertheless, there are reasons why I have to start you with a 30 minutes time frame, because price start reacting from the lower time frame before it gets to the higher time frame. But the best way I would show you on the higher time frame without wasting much time is that all these zones, when you mark them, they don't live on your lower time frame. They're always there. So you could always use H4 to mark important zones on your chart, and then now take it to 30 minutes so that you can have you can see a lot of the actions taking place. So as long as this is consigned, I want to put this on the daily time frame. So this have been much of sell from this point. So, but the 4-hour will show us where there are levels. So if I use the 4-hour here, if I use the 4-hour here, you will discover that, okay, let's start with the resistance. So you don't do two things at the same time. You first try to note the highest points the market started selling. So that was our first resistance there. The next thing you're going to do here is that you get the next two, and then you note the next point here. So resistance 1, resistance 2, resistance 3, and then the last resistance we have here is at this point before our time gets exhausted. So this is the last zone of resistance. So when you do that, it makes you pay attention. This is H4 on where you want to take sell. This is a sell move from here, another sell move, another sell. When you're done with that, neatly, don't put too many levels so you don't get confused. You now mark this first place where the market is, like it's trying to push upwards. You mark that zone as your first support level. So let's see how we can mark our support. So put the supports to the left, if possible, so that you don't confuse. So we have support here. The next support is at this point. So we have a support here, support, and the last support. So fine. When you do this, then